Hello and welcome to this live storytelling session. The plan is we are going to be learning, telling, researching and all that a story in a day. Now this is something that I have been doing for the past 7 weeks. So every single Sunday I've come out into my garden and I've shared with the people of YouTube that I'd be doing, I'd be choosing a theme. And then at the end of the day, I'd be telling a story that I'd never heard before. So previous themes have included hope, space, perspective, knowledge, communication, sacrifice, equality. And I am asking you lovely folks of Facebook Live to suggest a theme for me, and then I will go away into my house and I will do all I can to find a decent story that summarises that theme, and then I will share with you a story. So if any of you have a theme idea that's similar to those themes, please comment it below, let me know in some way or shape or form. I would love to see a story on, I wish I could read that, of Vanity. Vanity. Scare the crap out of James Day, robot donkeys. So this is something that I've seen in improv shows a few times before. If you've seen a theme mentioned in the comment section that you've liked the look of or whatever, if you like it for me, then when I go away and I can actually look at these theme ideas and I can choose the one that's got the most likes. However, let's not be crazy. But Vanity, Stilton, you gorgeous boy, is a great example. And shout out to Stilton as well, who did a very special introduction video for one of my other YouTube things on my channel, which is linked somewhere on my profile. And he basically introduced, he did a little introduction with a special song dedicated to James Little. And it was fantastic. Anxiety. Oh, that's a good one. Anxiety. Which of the deadly sins will we be going with? Vanity, anxiety. Neither of which are deadly sins, but we'll go with it. So I'm going to keep this on for just a second longer, whilst we choose. I mean, I'm very much tempted by Vanity. The only connection to Vanity I can think of is the song You're So Vain. You probably think this song is about you. Vanity. What does vanity mean? What does vanity mean to you? Greed. Greed is good. And there's lots of stories about greed. Lust. Lust, yes. Vanity, pride, and all the other sins. Yes, a story that encapsulates all that. I like it. So the plan is I'm going to go away, find a story that does something, and I will come and share it with you at 5 o'clock. However, it might be a little bit after 5 o'clock, so if I am delayed, I do apologise. I mean, I think James Bond's on today. I might just go and watch James Bond. Either way, I will see you this evening, probably in this same spot, probably doing the same rambling. Thank you everybody who have viewed this short little video, and I will hopefully see some of you later today. Thank you all. Bye bye. Hello. So obviously there were a few suggestions made in that live video that I just did, and I think I'm probably going to end up going with Vanity for a number of reasons. Firstly, I don't entirely know the gist of what it is, what it means, so I thought I'd do some research into the definition. And also, knowing the little bit that I do know about it, I thought it may bring up some interesting stories about people's ego and a need for beauty, a need for bettering themselves. I think that'd lead to some interesting storytelling ideas. And of course, it's an issue in 21st century with filters and the need to constantly update people via video and photos of what they're doing. Vanity does become sort of a centerpiece. Obviously, as you can see, the house is decked up because it was my sister George's birthday this week. That was a fabulous time. And I said that to explain the balloons and banners. I can't link that to Vanity, so I'll give you an update once I've found a story. So I'm about 20 minutes to half an hour away from doing this performance, and I'm close to selecting the story I want to tell. So it's probably going to be very much off the cuff, but it's going to be an animal story. That much is guaranteed. I've got a Russian story about a frog that gets taken away by some ducks. I've got a couple of First Nation stories, including one about a beaver and why he's got a flat tail, but that one's very short, so I probably won't end up telling that one. And then a story about a possum. And I don't really know what a possum is, but it's a decent story, so I might work out what a possum is and then I can tell you that one. Either way, I've still got some push-ups to do, and the day is going quickly, and I'm currently watching Diamonds Are Forever. It's quite a shocking beginning if anyone's watched the film. I won't say what happens for spoiler reasons, but as James Bond goes, yeah, especially classic Bond, which nothing really seems to happen at. I'm blabbering, just trying to do more delay tactics. There. I think there's a tennis ball up there. Ah, handy we've got this ladder here. I could go up and get it. Oh. There we are. Right. I'm going to go and tell you a story, and then maybe play some tennis. Are you a vain person? What is vanity anyway? Well, the dictionary tells us that vanity is the excessive belief in one's own abilities or attractiveness to others. Interestingly enough, there was a little quote on it that said a vain person would be someone who would sit on a table with all their makeup brushes, plucking their nose hair. It's an interesting idea that vanity could be a bad thing. Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? That's for us all to decide. This morning I didn't really know what vanity meant, so I've made a small bit of progression. I am telling you a vanity story today. Where could that story be? Well, let me tell you, it's an animal story for starters. Now, there's always the concern with animal stories that perhaps it may be for a younger audience, for children with little sock puppets and things. But I believe that if I am an adult telling fellow adults a story, it's an adult story. You decide whether or not this story is adult or not. So, where are we going for this story? Well, we are going to the land of the possum. The land of crickets. The land of frogs and rabbits and bears. This land is Northern America. And it's a long, long time ago. Long before the events of Hamilton and the Civil War, long before the Boston Tea Party, long, long before Christopher Columbus discovered it on his tiny little ship. Before all of that, a time where humans and animals and plants all lived together in harmony. Now, there's a story before this one, but that is not a story I'm going to tell you. But that story ends with the rabbit losing his tail. He has a really marvellous tail at the start of all things, but it gets snatched away by the bear. And as such, the rabbit is disorientated and angry with the world, and he wants to cause some trouble, as he often does in First Nation tales. And so, he is looking around in his forest, wondering who it is he could punish for this heinous act. And it just so happens he sees the possum. What is a possum? I'm sure you're all asking. I don't know what a possum is, but I did a little bit of research. And a possum is a small little dog creature that you find in Northern America. It's got a pink nose and a very small, thin tail. But in this time, in this story, the possum had a big, long, bushy tail. The sort of tail a squirrel would have. And he was proud of it. He loved his big, long, bushy tail. I wonder, what would you do if you had a big, long, bushy tail? Well, he would comb it, for starters. He would spend many hours combing his lovely, long, bushy tail. And he would create songs for it, songs about his tail. And sometimes he would walk the streets with it in his hand like a banner, tall and erect. Sometimes he would let it go behind him like a wedding train. And sometimes he would curl up with it in his bed like a blanket and go to sleep. And the rabbit saw the possum with his big tail singing and dancing and showing it off to everyone and thought, that's my target there. I'm going to see if I can cause some trouble for the possum, because he needs to stop going on about his silly little tail. And so he came up with a plan. You see, there was this big celebration happening at the end of the week, a big party. And the rabbit thought that would be a great opportunity for me to embarrass the possum. Now, in this particular area of Northern America, the frog was in charge. And the frog gave every animal a different job. And to the rabbit, he gave the job of spreading information. You see, the rabbit was a fast creature and would scuttle off to any area of the forest. So the frog gave the rabbit invitations to this great event that was happening. And he sent him off to tell everyone about the celebration. And so he went and told some of the animals. He told the bear. The bear was up for it. The bear was happy. The bear would provide the food. He told the other animals. All of the animals were up for it. And eventually he got around to the possum. And he knocked on the possum's door. And Possum, of course, combing his hair. Who could that be? Came to the door, opened the door. And there was the rabbit. And the rabbit said, Possum, everyone in the forest is invited to a great celebration happening at the end of the week. Would you like to come? Oh, if I have to. Well, I guess if I could have a special chair. You see, I've got this delightful tail. It's just a good tail. Would you like to touch the tail? You can't touch the tail. And I want everybody at that party to see the tail. So if you could arrange it for me that I have a special chair up there so everybody can see my tail, perhaps I would consider coming to your little shindig. The rabbit was a little bit agitated about this, seeing as what had happened to his tail, and he held his nerve and said, well, I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can get you a special chair. And not only that, I will also send someone over to have a look at your tail, and if possible, make it look even better than it already does. The possum enjoyed this. Perfect. Send him around tomorrow. I'm going to go and sleep on my tail. And so the possum retreated into the house, and the rabbit scuttled off. He scuttled all the way to the cricket. And the cricket was the hairdresser of the town. He was called the barber. I wonder whether or not he'd be able to open with the virus these days. Perhaps being an animal, I don't know. Do crickets catch COVID? We don't need to go down that path. And the rabbit said to the cricket, could you possibly go over to the possum's house and make him look good for tomorrow? And the cricket thought, oh, that possum always goes on about his tail. I don't want to be in a room with him singing his songs and doing his little tail dances. I'm sick of it, to be honest, rabbit. And the rabbit got up close and began to whisper, well, cricket, I have a plan. and Rabbit shared his plan with Cricket. The next day came, and Cricket scuttled, got his 6 legs, over to the Possum's house. They said, "Possum, I'm here to have a look at your tail." And so Possum welcomed Cricket in, and he lay down and said, "Make it look good." And the Cricket began to work. He began by combing the tail, making it look as elongated as possible. And then he got his little tiny scissors, you know, that you use for cutting thin hair. And the Possum said, Not too much. I don't want to ruin the length." And then the Possum went to sleep. And the Cricket worked hard at thinning out his tail, and then he wrapped it all tightly in a red ribbon, almost like a present. And when the Possum woke up, he looked down and said, "Oh, a red ribbon. Perhaps I can unveil it at the party tomorrow. It will be so glamorous. Oh, don't I have a lovely tail? Off you go now, Cricket. You've done your work." Well, that evening, it was time for the big celebration. The frog was there, and he did a big frog speech to everybody. And the Possum came, you know, a little bit later than everyone else, famous for his tardiness. And he looked around and thought, there's the seat that Rabbit's got for me. Everybody will be able to see me. And he still had the red ribbon around his tail. He settled up in his seat, looking at everybody. They're all looking at me. They think I look fabulous. In truth, of course, they were looking at the food and looking at the dancers and doing anything they could to avoid Possum's ambience, Possum's atmosphere. Everyone was sick of his arrogance. After the food, the dancing came, and the music played, and the drums began to pump, bum, 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 bum. And the Possum thought, this is the time I could really show off. And so he set out onto the dance floor, and he began to dance, and he was spinning and moving around. And of course, with his big tail with all the ribbons, it was making him go faster and faster. He was spinning around and saying, "Look at my tail! Isn't my tail the best?" And he was making silly little songs to go with the dance that he was doing. "My tail is the best tail around. Isn't it better than yours? You don't have a good tail. I have a good tail." And as he looked, he saw everybody was watching him. And they began cheering and clapping. Perhaps because they knew that would be the best way to shut him up and get him to move on. And as they cheered and clapped, the Possum thought, I could take this a step further. Ladies and gentlemen, you may think that this is all I've got to show of my tail, but wait, there's more. If I remove this red ribbon, you'll be able to see the fur, the hair, how soft it is. Oh, it's such a good tail, you'll all say. It's such a good tail. And he began to cut the red ribbon that was keeping his tail compact. And once it was all gone, he removed it and he began dancing again. "Look at my tail, look at how hairy it is." And everybody else could see that his tail was stick thin and hairless, because when the Cricket had gone over to make it look good, he had snipped off every single one of the Possum's hairs. But of course the Possum didn't notice this. He was noticing the audience lapping up his dancing. But he was wondering whether or not there was a hint of sarcasm and cheers. "Oh, look at my tail, my hairy, hairy tail. Isn't it good? Isn't it great? Look at my hairy tail." And then he looked and he noticed that they were all laughing at him. He thought, "Why are you all laughing at me? Look at my tail. Why would you laugh?" And as he turned around, he saw that there wasn't a single hair on his tail anymore. It was all gone. And as he saw that, he looked at everyone, and embarrassed and horrified, he turned onto the floor on his back, stuck his limbs up into the air, and completely froze still, playing dead. And even today, if you happen to find yourself a possum walking around on the street and you scare it, it will turn around and it will stick its limbs up into the air and it will play dead. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is why the possum has a very, very thin tail, because of his vanity. Thank you to everybody who has listened to this story. Thank you, of course, to Stilton for giving me the suggestion. If anybody is interested, this story and all the others I've told are on my YouTube channel. And this has been an experiment. If anybody would like me to do this again next Sunday, obviously, as long as lockdown continues and my work isn't open, I have free time. I'm happy to learn and share with you some more stories. So please let me know if it's something of interest to you. Otherwise, it's been pleasant telling all of you beautiful, socially distanced virtual audience a story that I have researched, learnt and told in one day. I bid you adieu.